I'm McDonald. I'm a pediatric neurologist at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. I specialize in epilepsy and neurogenetics, and I have been coming to AES every year since 2014, and I love this meeting. Mark, do you want to introduce yourself before we get started?
Sure. I'm Mark Fahrenberg. I'm an adult neurologist. I work at a community hospital in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. I'm medical director of our now level 3 epilepsy center at St. Francis Healthcare System. I don't have quite the track record of AES, probably 4 or 5 years, I guess, at this point. It's always a good time. I don't miss AES. I only miss AEN.
Me too. All right, so let's get started. Welcome to our first time attendee orientation. This is what's coming your way. I'll go through the first half and then Mark will take over. And so we'll talk a little bit about what to do to prep ahead of the meeting, briefly touch on who is the AES leadership, and some overview of the educational programming and spotlights, as well as can't-miss networking opportunities and some really cool information on the exhibit hall, building your schedule, and some other tips, and hopefully lots of time for Q&As. So you probably already know this. It's happening in December. Hopefully by now you signed up. That's how you got here, December 6th through the 10th. It's in Los Angeles. And the exhibit hall is open the 7th through the 9th. And I am not from LA and actually have never been there, so I don't have a lot of background on the city itself. But I did notice on the website, if you go for the AES meeting, they have lots of what to do. There's even discounts for Disney World and a lot of tips on restaurants. So ahead of the meeting, and when you do it, is up to you. I like to do this actually in the airport on my way there, but some people I think like to even plan ahead of it. You can start looking at the online planner that is already up. I was actually browsing it today. And you can look at what is available day by day. So it's really nicely broken down and you can click on each section. It'll tell you what to expect. I'll tell you the speakers. And when you download the app, which I think should be available soon, you can actually make your own days. And so this is really important for networking. And if you want to meet specific people or you're interested in certain topics, you can browse the speakers as it says there, look at abstracts ahead of it, attendees, and then even use your attendee directory or choose any sessions where you know the people you want to meet are going to be. And then you can go to those, ask questions, and even stay after. Most people at AES are really friendly and will want to talk to you. And then the exhibit hall is just massive. There's poster days. There are, next to the posters, there's the tables where there's a lot of different companies, pharmaceutical companies, tech companies, patient foundations, people recruiting for jobs. So I definitely recommend going there. If you have small children like I do, you can always get a lot of really cool things to bring back to them as gifts. Here's the board executive committee. Dr. William Theodore is the president. I don't know him, I will admit to that. I do know Howard Goodkin, who's a child neurologist, and some of the other folks on here. If you have an interest or know that, you can probably find them around the meeting. There are a lot of different positions there, and you may see some names that you recognize or not, but I think you don't necessarily need to meet any of these folks or have them know you to like really have the best meeting ever. But you can kind of look at the different areas of the country represented. So if you want to get involved in AES in the future, you can always kind of see there's being part of the leadership, but then there's also a lot of different committees you can join. And so there's a lot of people here. So you can see Taylor Abel was initially in this committee and helped found it. So that's, you know, a name to know, but as you see, there's just different positions that could be held. And so this is kind of the meat of the conference. And so there's the annual course, and this is full day. There's 4 sessions, and there's lectures, clinical vignettes, debates, panel discussions, so a little bit for everyone. There are basic science skills workshops for different interests, clinical skills workshops, investigator workshops, 20 sessions. That's great. I would say when you signed up for the sessions, if there's anything that's paid, or no, when you sign up for the conference, if there's anything that is paid, that's when you get to choose to sign up for these workshops. I don't know if there's an opportunity to sign up once you're at the meeting. I would let Shauna weigh in on that if that's a question people have. Besides the poster sessions, there are platform sessions that are specifically done based on specific topics. This is a great session if you want a smaller venue than like a full lecture or something like that. If you want to grab someone that is presenting on a specific topic, there's poster sessions, which I cannot emphasize enough how important attending poster sessions are. This is where the new research is coming out. This is where I have met collaborators. You can meet people all across the country and the world. I am still connecting with doctors in South America, referring doctors from people I met in AES in like 2015. It's amazing. And in now for the last several years, there has been walking tours that have someone that just brings you around to some select posters. So that's something you can do if you're not sure. But if you have the time to browse through the abstracts and you want to make a little path for yourself, that's great. And I am told this year is one of the years with the most posters, so it's very exciting. There are lots of professional development careers for different stages. I know in the past I have attended one for people more interested in clinical. There's for academia. There are, this year I haven't browsed specifically, but you can find that. The special interest groups are really another must join experience. 40 topic-based smaller group sessions. This is huge. I was just browsing a little bit. There's one on DEEs, developmental epileptic encephalopathies related to X-linked genetic disorders. I mean, that is so specific. It's very, very cool. I know every year the SIG on ictal semiology always gets really full. And sometimes these SIGs will be at 7:30 in the morning, but now I think they're really just spread out throughout the day and there's really something for everyone. And I will say sometimes there's so many I want to go to and then I don't know what to do. But this is another great place to meet the experts in certain topics. They're usually the ones running the SIGs or definitely attending, or at least someone from their lab, institution, et cetera. So this is another great place to really connect with those that are doing things that you're interested in. There's special lectures and there's also symposium. And again, the app once you're in transit or just going on the website, you can do that right now. There's so many different topics that you can look at. I will say something I did when I first came to AES was that I attended the conference from like 7:30 in the morning until like 7 p.m. at night. It was very exhausting. You don't necessarily need to do that. I think if you are, if you plan appropriately, you can kind of plan ahead and choose some times of must see things, and especially either SIGs or even poster sessions where you think you're going to connect with the people that you want to meet. But then other times also have a little bit of downtime. AES is a great place to see people from like your training or other institutions you haven't seen in a while. And then, hopefully I'm on the East Coast right now. So December on the West Coast sounds like it's going to be warmer. So I'm excited to get outside a little too in between sessions. So some spotlights, if you're still very confused because there's so much, and there truly is. And I think if I can give you one advice is that you really choose things based on what your interest is. You don't have to hit every single thing. And so here's just some reviews of some of the things that are coming your way, but don't feel like you have to go to every single one. The annual course is on Sunday. It's really all day. It offers a lot of CME. The app is a really easy way. My pro tip is to actually do the CME as you go. You can like kind of record it on your app and it's really nice. Then you don't forget to do it. So the big four is the annual course, the Epilepsy Classic. So if I remember correctly, they're going to have a section FND, functional neurologic disorder, focal epilepsies, and generalized epilepsies. And I'm forgetting one more thing. It's the big four, but it's another epilepsy section. And it's broken down into the 4 sessions, and it's go in all day. And if there's an area that interests you the most, that's great. Or you can attend all of it. There are a lot of workshops and they focus on different areas, basic science, clinical skills, investigator workshops. And again, that's going to depend on what you're interested in. If you are not interested in any of this, or you feel like you don't need any workshops, then don't go. If there's one that's really speaking to you, make sure you take note of it. And I think the special interest groups, again, this is one of my favorite things to do, because it just really gets you in with the people that are really, really interested in your topics and in what you're doing. And it's just a really great way to find out what's going on, what research is happening, where is the field going. And every year it gets more and more specific, and there's more SIGs. So again, it's really fun. And as far as some of the opportunities, Mark, I don't know which one was 11, so stop me if I'm going past what number 11 is.
Yeah,
Opportunities. Sorry?
we'll switch at the next one. This is
Okay.
or maybe this is
Do you want to switch here or next?
no, let's switch at the
Okay, great. So opportunities for early career. So there's a few things that are more specific for those in their early career. There's skill sessions. I think I had seen some of the questions submitted were on grants. So there's definitely going to be an early career grants session, time management, finding work-life balance early on. This is definitely something that I have seen a shift over the years, certainly not anything that I learned in residency. So it's nice to see it weaved into this sessions. Promotion, that's a big one, I would say, even for those that are still in training. Promotion's like a very confusing thing that happens depending on your institution. I know I'm a big institution, so it gets a little bit confusing. So it's nice to kind of hear a little bit on these presentations. There's also career pathway sessions, which are also, I think, really important. Some people do research, some are more clinical, and certainly there's lots of non-academic folks that are coming. And so just having those sessions where you can chat with people that have the career that you want, that's another really great asset of coming to the meeting, where if you're in one place, you may not have access to meeting people doing other things. The annual fundamental symposium is another one of those like big lectures that last several hours. This year it's on the role of neuromodulation in epilepsy management. And there's basic science skills workshops, and there's a first timer meetup that's hosted by our committee. So Mark, I'll let you take over and just let me know when you want me to.
Sure. So just continuing with that, opportunities for early career professionals. The reason we've got these few slides is that in theory, if you're coming to AES for the first time, then perhaps you're in your early career stage. So continue with that. On Saturday, there's the Presidential Symposium, which is on imaging in epilepsy this year. There's also a career fair on Saturday for networking opportunities for future jobs. If you're more of a research-oriented person, there's a basic science skills workshop also there on Saturday. Sunday, we have the AES Annual Business Meeting. I don't know if you're interested in the business of the AES in as a whole. Theoretically, our upper echelon of AES officers would theoretically be there, so there could be a networking opportunity to catch those folks. Like was already touched on, the annual course is on Sunday. Continuation of the career fair in the exhibit hall there on Sunday as well. On Sunday as well, we have an early career membership reception, which is a joint reception with the young epilepsy section of the ILAE. And my understanding is there will be refreshments. I don't recall what refreshments we will have, but that's sort of a joint venture with the ILE. And then on Tuesday, there's epilepsy therapy symposiums or symposium, and that this year it's the development of epilepsy therapeutics. So that's kind of the latest and um, latest development in epilepsy therapeutics and sort of what's in the pipeline down the road. And then on Tuesday too, there's the predominant the clinical skills workshops. So some of these, perhaps all of them, I'm not sure. These are paid workshops, but these are more hands-on things that if you really, for instance, I believe there's one on neuromodulation, which could really get your sort of hands dirty, so to speak, if you want those hands-on experiences. Yeah, next slide. So from a networking opportunity standpoint, really, the entire meeting is a networking opportunity. But we've got a few that we wanted to highlight here. So on Friday, we have our first timer meetup. That's 3:30 to 5. So folks from our community and folks from AES as a whole. There will be refreshments there. I think this is going to be more of just a casual meet and greet type thing. There will be a brief introduction, and then I believe there's ice cream. Is this one we have ice cream? Am I correct on that?
This one is the nacho bar.
Nacho bar, even better. Okay. Okay. So then we encourage everyone to link up there, and it's a good networking opportunity with more people who are in your position, first timers at the meeting. Saturday there is a widespread reception, 4:45 to 5:45, and then there's a wine tasting and silent auction that night. And then Sunday is that early career membership and yes joint reception. Next one. So touching a little bit on the exhibit hall. So the exhibit hall is a massive undertaking. There's more than 150 booths there. One of the questions that we had, we had some pre-questions that were sent. One was, how do we network with industry? And honestly, this might be a good way to do that, because you're going to get just tons and tons of industry folks in there. It's a bit of a maze. There's also sort of a game out of it. So if you go to a certain number of booths, then you're put into a drawing. Some of my colleagues really like to go around and scavenge hunt. This is where the lunch is. So lunch is served daily. It's first come, first serve. So you don't want to show up super late because they do run out. They do have multiple options as far as vegan and various other options. And this typically, and I assume it's the same here, is that it's typically at the back of the exhibit hall. So you kind of got to go through sort of the maze of booths sometimes to get to the back to get the lunch. Let's see. Yeah, so I already touched a little bit on the passport prize, and Nicole's putting some of that information in the chat. I've never done it myself, but I hear good things about the prizes. And then we touched base a little bit on the career fair already. Next slide. So what's going to be your friend at the meeting is the app. So I don't believe we have the app available yet, but it soon will be. But it looks very similar to the online planner, which is available now. If you go on the online planner, it'll look just like this picture. So the first tab is schedule, and it kind of just looks the whole thing broadly, and it's a little bit difficult to take in for me. So I always click on agenda like this, and over on the left hand side, you'll see that you can really sort the sessions by whatever you would, whatever you want. So obviously by day is the easiest, and you can just broadly go through all of the things for that day. You can also sort it by time of day, so morning, evening, night, or afternoon. You can also sort it by types. So if you are just interested in lectures, or you only want to see the SIGs, you want to know when the posters are, you can sort it by those things. You can even sort it by career stage. So and you can click the early career stage if that's what you want. And then if you wanted to see what's really recommended for just first timers, and not really just first timers, but it's sort of included in the first timers. So you click on demographics, and then you click first time attendee, and that will also show you some of the things that are recommended for some of the first time folks. Once you do that, you can, if you're a dinosaur like me and you want something on paper, you can actually click. So as you go through and you click the sessions that you like, let's say you just don't want to miss. So you would click on those as sort of your session, and then that builds your own schedule. And then you can actually click download my schedule, and that'll give you a little PDF. And if you really wanted to, you could print it out and just follow it. It's got the room numbers on it. It's got everything. And so everything comes with the app too. So we all have our phone now, but I'm a bit of a dinosaur. Next slide. So just some networking tips, meeting etiquette things. This is a really good place to meet folks. I've met lots and lots of connections. It's an informal meeting, yet there's some formality to it, but for the most part, it's informal, and you really want to have, your elevator speech prepared. You know who you are, why you're there, what's your goal. That way, if there's somebody next to you, don't be afraid to just say, hi, I'm so-and-so from so-and-so. And you can really make a lot of relationships that way. And just be open to meeting people. Everybody's friendly at AES. I've never talked to anyone and they sort of shooed me away. Maybe if I'm talking to them for too long, try not to do that, obviously. Try to be punctual to the sessions. Seating is first come, first serve, especially the SIGs. So I really, really recommend the SIGs. But there are some that it is completely full, and it's like standing room only at the end of it, or at the beginning of it, I guess. And obviously respect the speakers. If you're going to come in and sit on the first row, ideally you don't want to get up 5 minutes in and walk out because you're like, this is not what I thought. Just be respectful. Wear your badge throughout the meeting, because this is going to let people know who you are. They could recognize your name, they can recognize where you're from. I've literally met people just because they saw where I was at, and so then they introduce themselves, and we have made lasting relationships. And then can't talk, familial, yeah, you know what I mean. Get to know the policies and guidelines that govern the AES annual meeting. Next slide. So just some housekeeping things. So when you arrive, there's a registration center or a contour where you will pick up your badge. There is a member center there where you can stop by, say hello to some of the AES folks, and you pick up a first timer ribbon. And then just kind of orient yourself to where you are. So generally these conference centers are massive. They're multiple floors, and they're spread out quite a bit. And so you kind of want to get to know it. It won't take long. You'll figure out kind of where everything's at, where to get your coffee, where to get your food, where most of the things that you're interested are in. And by Sunday or Monday, you'll know exactly what room they're talking about when they say, whatever number. What to wear? It's business casual. You want to wear some comfortable shoes. So this is not the time to break in some new shoes, because like I said, the conference centers are generally pretty large, and I would imagine it's going to be the same way in LA. So you don't want to be walking all over the planet on very uncomfortable shoes. The rooms can be pretty cold. I would imagine even in LA, even in Orlando last year, they were pretty pretty cold. So if you bring a jacket or a sweater, that might be a good idea. So we'll stop and take questions. So if you have any questions or prior that we don't answer today, so the AES website has plenty of information. The online planner is your friend, and soon to be the mobile app, which is essentially the app version of the online planner. If you have any registration or hotel questions, email this email link here. And then during the meeting, if you have any problems or questions, feel free to come by the member center at the registration lobby. I think maybe that's our last one. I don't remember. Yeah. So now we can stop and take any questions. I've seen the chat pop up, but I've been trying not to look at it because it derails me a bit.
Yeah, I didn't see any. I kind of put it up before. Let's see. Like I said, I don't use Zoom that much. And
we've had a lot of really great questions, and we had some folks submit some wonderful questions prior to the session. Were there any of those questions that you wanted to call out? I think we addressed most of them.
yeah, I don't know if you have them up, Mark, because I can't.
Yeah, I do. So I think I kind of highlighted and try to color code things as to what we would have covered already. You know, some of the questions center around, you know, what's the must see, must do type things, and I think we both agree that it depends on, you know, your interest, because you know I'm adult only, whereas Pam obviously would want to go to the children things, and I have no interest in doing that. So you know what's must see to her versus what's must see to me is obviously different.
Yeah.
One question was from a PhD student who says they're interested in going into industry after graduation. Sort of what opportunities are there at AES and recommendations as far as that's concerned. What I would say to that is the exhibit hall. Number one is a good area for that. Obviously, there's industry all over that place. You can make good connections there. There's also some industry product theaters, and some of the people from those trials will obviously be there. I don't know, Pam, if you know any.
Yeah, I mean, you'll see industry dinners and things like that. If you stay in hotels that are associated with the meeting, you know, there was a long list of hotels, I think. When we're all sleeping at night, some industry fairy comes and drops off flyers outside of our door. And so a lot of the times, you know, you'll get like a little bag with like folders with events. And so there you may meet more industry people. And again, I'll emphasize the exhibit hall that I spend a lot of time there sometimes just connecting with folks from, you know, I do a lot of VNS and I work with neurogenetic groups. And so there's a lot of patient family foundation. So there's another opportunity to meet kind of people that are outside of being an MD or a physician as well.
I would also recommend on Friday, there are several professional development career pathways sessions, and one of those sessions is devoted to the non-academic and alternative careers panel. And that one has a variety of panelists from a variety of settings, but we also have some industry representatives that are on that panel. So that might be a good place to gather some information.
Yeah, and I think one of the things we talked about during our planning meetings was if you do have business cards, to bring those are like a very easy way, you know, besides your elevator speech, you know, like Mark was saying, sometimes you don't want to stay and like talk a lot if you're at a poster session and you're super interested in someone, you know, there's a chance that other people are there, so you don't want to stay for 30 minutes and talk to the person that's trying to present their poster, or even like after a SIG where there's many different people trying to interact. So having a business card ready is always like a nice way to wrap things up and, you know, ensure that you're kind of continuing. If you don't have or you forget, don't worry. We all have our phones, and it's always easy to kind of get someone's contact info. And also, I know we talked a lot about networking, which I think for me is the coolest thing of AES. If you're someone that's not super excited about talking to like 1,000 people and you kind of want to learn and take it all in your first time, that's also something that's available to you. Again, there's a lot of people. And so if you want to go to lectures, learn, maybe take note, that's also available to you. And even if you just want to meet one person, you know, certainly encourage that, but just know that there's not like one way to do this right, if you will. And so whatever works for you, you can, you know, there's a place for you here.
Another question was that we may not have touched on much is about grants. So someone was wanting to learn more about grants. There's a talk somewhere at some time about grants. I don't recall where it was. There's also an email which we can put in the chat or somewhere where you can reach out. Yeah, on Friday, which is one of the career skills sessions.
Yeah, and I would say if you subscribe to the AES, outside of the meeting, you know, they do send a lot of really good emails where they have grant opportunities. And so just keeping an eye out for those is a great way to see what's available and, you know, just make note of the deadline. So I think more than the meeting's more for learning, not necessarily to like come in and get grants. You'll see people get awards and things like that. They'll be awarded at AES, but you want to be working on that outside of that. So come learn how to get them.
Right. One other question was that we probably didn't cover is poster printing services. And my understanding is that if you had a poster that is accepted AES, that they would have sent you an email with some instructions there. We believe that there's a FedEx there that is available, but it has to be arranged ahead of time.
Yeah, so for other options, if you for some reason forget or didn't do it or missed a deadline, you know, you want to look for outside FedEx facilities nearby. But you know, piggybacking on the prior recommendation of wearing comfortable shoes, it is LA, it's a huge city, and the convention centers are huge no matter where you are. And so, you know, if there's probably a FedEx around the area, you can always try and find things like that. But ideally, you just follow the instructions that you got in the poster, or you can print ahead of time. And I think what I have been doing the last few years, which has been really cool, is finding posters that are like made out of cloth. So they're like really easy if you're flying to like pack. And they come in like a nice little box, so they're not all wrinkled. So I've been using that the last couple of years for my posters, so just printing it ahead of time in my own institution. And sometimes that's like easier and faster to reimburse as well, if that's available to you.
If I may, I'd like to take a moment to answer the question that was in the Q&A aloud. I think it's going to be a little easier and more effective than typing. But AES, as part of our process in planning these meetings, we negotiate rates with local hotels that are the closest hotels to the convention center. So the rates, I can tell you, especially for LA and the AES hotel block, are vastly, vastly lower than what you will find elsewhere in LA. You can certainly stay elsewhere, but there's definitely something to be said for the ability to roll out of bed and get to a 7 a.m. session really easily and pay about half the cost to do that. So that is the answer in a nutshell. I will put it in the Q&A typing so that we have that for posterity, but I just wanted to chime in.
Here. I don't know if I'm seeing I don't know if I'm seeing the questions in the chat, because what I see here is just some comments about the grants.
Those are the questions that are in the Q&A tab.
Is there a Q&A tab? Where's? Oh, maybe.
It should be on the
Oh, there we
bottom
go.
of the, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I always stay on the, usually I even stay on the hotels that are attached to the convention center, mainly because of what Nicole just mentioned. And some of the SIGs are really early. And even in some of the committees, so Mark and I are in the early, career committee that helps plan these events. In the past, I've been in the CME committee, and there's just like a lot of different committees, and sometimes you have your meetings also very early on the weekend, so it's nice to stay. I think it depends on the city, of course, like LA, a lot of people I'm sure maybe have other plans. Last year it was Orlando, and so, I merged it into a family vacation to Disney. And so that also affects where you stay, who you're bringing, etc. But the cheaper price and the close location would be the two benefits. If you are someone that has friends in the area, like I know some people from where I work often will do like Airbnbs nearby just to combine like the adult and the peds neuro people from that they know each other from training. And so you can make it your own, but certainly money and closeness is a good reason. Yeah, see, now I just found the Q&A. I'm trying to read here. It sounds like Nicole and Shauna have been answering. Let's see. Yeah, no, you don't have to sign up for anything ahead of time unless it's the paid workshops. Everything else anything that's paid, you sign up ahead of time, but everything else you can just show up. First time. I like to practice presenting my poster to like people I know. I don't know if Mark, if you've done that too. And then the business course, as you said, are very useful. And then get someone to grab your lunch to bring it to you. Let's see. Oh, thanks for answering that, Nicole. Someone asked about who are the first-time attendees. So yeah, we don't have that info, but Nicole mentioned early career physicians and researchers, and yeah, a lot of APPs now. Wi-Fi, yeah, there's always Wi-Fi. Yeah. Oh, that's fun. High school students, that's amazing. Congrats. I don't know if you can see, Mark, the question. Someone's asking about a couple of high school students presenting posters. And same advice I gave for anyone presenting.
We also, just so everybody knows, we will send all attendees an email a few days before everybody's anticipated to arrive on site. And that'll have all the information you need for how to get in there, where you go in the convention center, how you check in and get your badge, and just some high level pointers and reminders that'll be important as you make your way to LA. And then once on site, you have the opportunity to grab a program book if you'd like, or as we mentioned prior, you can use the app. But there will be no shortage of opportunities to figure out where things are and how to get there. And we are always there to help. So pretty much everybody is very friendly. Please don't hesitate to ask if you need help finding something or, navigating the meeting. We are so happy to help.
I always like to get the poster or the program book because it's got all the posters. If it's the one I'm thinking about. And I kind of, in my hotel at night, I go through and pick out I'm kind of a nerd. So I go through and pick out the posters because there's so many posters. You can just walk through and look at them all. But if I walk through all of them, I will be falling down and vertiginous. So I kind of, I pick out the must-sees for me and my interest. I hit all of those, and then I kind of come back and meander around the hall until I get dizzy.
Yeah, I like the book too. I know every year there's like less and less physical copies of things. But I like to have the book too and kind of check off the things that I want to see. And usually what's nice in the exhibit hall is that they group the posters that kind of have a theme, right? Like in same hallways. So often you will find all the ones that you like kind of nearby. And I like to go by, and also if there's posters from your institution or your group, I know for us, we try to collect information on like people that are presenting from our institution. So that way we can go like support them. And so if you know there's other folks from your institution that are presenting, or you know your practice or wherever you're coming from, that's also just a nice check in with people that you already know, and then you see a friendly face, and then you can meet other people that perhaps are checking out those posters. So definitely, if you're into marking stuff, it's to me it's easier to read it and mark it on paper than to like scroll through the app. I still do everything paper myself as well. So
The other thing with the app is that you can search for a person's name. So if there's a particular person that you're really wanting to meet, and you search for their name, you know, you may find that they have a poster, and obviously they're going to be standing by their poster. And so it's a great, you know, way to link up with them.
You can also opt into our attendee directory, and anybody that does is searchable, and you can message them within the app as well to make those connections if you don't run into them in person.
yeah. Trying to figure out if I don't see any more Q&A. Oh, CME, yeah. Each session, it will list how much CME it has. And I mean, my pro tip was, if you can, you have to fill out the evaluation. So you can actually do that on your phone in the app. There's Wi-Fi in the convention center, as somebody asked already. And so I like to do it as soon as the session's over. I just get on my app, you can put on the list, and then you'll get an email on like when the last days to do it. I tend to also, I don't know if we're still doing it this year, since COVID, they, you know, there's been a lot of video opportunities to watch. So sometimes now, as I've been going to AES more, I tend to network more than go to the lectures all day. And so I will actually come home and watch some of the lectures after on that are available on demand. I don't know if Nicole or Shauna know this. Is this still something that will be available?
Yes. Yeah. Demand content will be available beginning December 18th. Not every session is recorded, but the app and the program book do have icons or tags that designate what will be recorded and what won't. So it might make sense as you're looking at the planner and making your schedule to really look at what's being recorded, to see if maybe perhaps you watch that after the meeting and you forego that for a different session, or to go to a networking event, or to even casually network in the registration lobby or in the exhibit hall.
Yeah, that's been really fun. And then they'll have a day where like CME, you know, you can claim CME until this day, and then you just go and you like claim all of everything and you get a certificate. Anything else?
So there's a question, and then was just answered, so it goes to a different page.
Okay, yeah, I I keep losing the Q&A thing, and then as you can tell, I'm now I got used to all the you know, Microsoft Teams, and I no longer know how to use Zoom. But for some reason I now lost where the Q&A is.
The question, so the question is this geared more towards medical professionals and researchers? Because this person is a social worker who works with epilepsy patients, and is wondering, you know, the relevance or beneficial nature of the meeting. I definitely think it is. So there are also patient, family, I don't know what to call them, support networks that are typically there as well. that you could find beneficial. There are lots of talks which sort of encompass epilepsy management as a whole, not only just from a medical standpoint, but from a social standpoint as well. And there's quite a few talks actually that help with that because you know, as we know, epilepsy, there's such a massive social component to that. You know, it affects every walk of life. So I think so.
Yeah, and also I want to add, I know from my division, we have epilepsy psychologists that work with our patients, and they come and do a lot of, they have talks that are run by them, and I think that's geared more towards, you know, some of our social workers are part of our epilepsy psychologist network in our division that help, and the patient foundations have their own tables. Some of the SIGs will include patient families, and I think I saw one of the big talks this year, it has a big emphasis on transition of care. So I don't know what area of epilepsy you support your patients with, but if, you know, it's a big topic for us as pediatric neurologists when our patients are turning, you know, 18 to 21, and especially those on keto diet or VNS. And we want to, you know, those with autism and intellectual disabilities. And so we, you know, heavily rely on social workers for that. And I think there is one of the big symposia that is transitioning there. So I would encourage you to look through the topics because there is a lot of things geared towards social workers and those supporting the patients with epilepsy that are less about the, you know, more clinical or even, you know, neuroscience behind things. Okay, now I'm just leaving this open. And all right.
We will follow up and provide the slides and the recording by email. They'll also be on the AES website. So don't worry if you missed anything, you will have an opportunity to see it again.
And I'll put in a plug that I will be at the first timer meetup. Unfortunately, I have to fly back on Sunday, but I have been to both the last 2 years. And it's just a nice space to meet other people that are there for the first time. The Sunday event is a little bit bigger because it has the young epilepsy section from the ILAE. And I think that was a little bit more international, and not everyone was the first attendee. And there was a lot of like research folks that were part of bigger labs that were coming in to kind of figure out what they wanted to do with their lives. So that was kind of fun talking with them. And there's always like fun little refreshments and things, but just something kind of, it's informal. You come in, hang out for a little bit. You don't necessarily have to stay the whole time. So I definitely encourage people to come to both sessions or at least one of them. And I figured out how to use this Q&A thing. Nothing new.
There is a question about public transportation. That's a great question. We have a page on our site. I want to say it's called Getting Around LA or something to that effect. There is public transit. So you can take a look at the routes via our website. And then from there kind of plan to supplement with ride shares or whatever makes the most sense. I can post that link in the Q&A as well in just a moment.
All right. Anything? Oh, there's something in the chat. Is that where you put that? Yeah. Great. Thank you. Oh, wait, no, there's something. Let's see. Any advice on how to approach people when networking? Depends where you are, but I think it's nice to go up to people at the posters and ask them about their work, or in my case, often if I find someone that's in the area that I'm interested in, then I'll kind of introduce myself and say, this is what I'm doing. I just kind of get talking about that. So those are my two like easiest ways. I don't know, Mark, what thoughts you have?
Yeah, you know, I've kind of found that a lot of my networking things come from, which is obviously not required, but you know, a lot of people from training are often there, and so you end up in these small groups at times, and you know you can then meet people from handshake to handshake to handshake. Um, the poster sessions are always really good. Even you know, I even the stars, so to speak, of epilepsy. You know, oftentimes they'll be by you know one of their posters. You can meet them there. The SIGs too. Especially some of the smaller SIGs are really you know informal, and you can talk to them afterwards, ask questions, things like that.
And I will say, actually, the hotel bar, like whatever hotel's attached to the convention center, a lot of like programs will have like their happy hour for like, you know, whatever, Penn Neurology, Columbia Neurology, whatever, they'll have their meetup there. Or even after, like when people are just heading back. So there's been a lot of times where I was just getting back and like there was a ton of people hanging out, and I just kind of said hello to a friend and then like ended up meeting again some of the stars in my mind. You know, we all have different stars that we like to meet, but that's a nicer, more relaxed way to meet. And honestly, I feel like I've never had a bad interaction where even if you like Mark said, it's cool to be wearing your badge because it tells you like if you're like, oh, are you from this area, or you know someone in common, you may be like, oh, you're at this institution, I know this person, and like you can kind of get talking that way too.
Yeah, that's another plug for staying in the same hotel, because then
Yeah.
the bars downstairs not, and it's just there's just people everywhere. It's not that you would have to be drinking. You know,
Oh no, like those bars tend to be just like kind of open into the hotel. You're just like walking past them.
it's open area and people are everywhere. Any other last minute questions?
See, I had it and I closed it and now I lost it. It's okay. Someone will tell us if there's more questions.
Wonderful. I think that's all we have. Pam, Mark, thank you so much for leading this discussion. This was so helpful.